Do you need to get organized to write a paper or a presentation? That's what this video is all about. Hi everybody, I'm John McDowell of Communicate with Command, and I'm here today to help you get organized. I've told you in other videos that the #1 step to eliminating nervousness is to get organized and prepare for your presentation in advance. And today we're going to learn some techniques to get organized for that presentation. This also applies well to writing papers. So stay tuned until the end of this video, and I'm going to give you some great tips on putting this technique that I'm about to show you into action so that you can have a really organized outline for your presentation or your paper. Let's jump right in. In order to show you how to write an organizational outline for a presentation or a paper, and this is really going to help you reduce that nervousness, in order to write this organizational outline, we need to then, of course, have some information to write about. So to begin this, I'm going to tell you a little story about Rowdy the Rat. Now, many years ago, actually about 20 years ago now, in London, there was a researcher who was doing research on behavioral modification physical therapy. It was a combination of fields. And what he was doing was he worked specifically with children. He helped children who had been injured in some way or had a debilitating disease, who had limited motion control of their appendages. He helped them to improve. And what he did was he helped modify their behaviors. So even when they're out playing on the playground, those sorts of things, then he taught them how to play in ways that would move their muscles in such a way that they would be doing their own therapy, in other words, their own physical therapy. So it was physical therapy combined with behavioral modification. When he started doing this research, though, he couldn't work with these children. Anytime you do some kind of research like that, you want to make sure that you research it fully and investigate to make sure there are going to be no detrimental effects to the children. So you can't just go out and try this on kids. This is what he did, but before he got started doing that, he had to do research. And that means that he had to do animal research, animal testing, in other words. And he helped animals that had been injured in some way recover using a similar technique. So what he did was he had all these different animals in his lab, and he had mice, he had frogs, he had goats, he had pigs, he had a couple of different animals. He had actually called all around the world to try to find these injured animals in specific ways and then help them through training them. He had an animal trainer on hand. He helped them through training them to do tasks, daily tasks. And then through those tasks, he had them improve their muscle movement and range of movement. Okay, so his star animal was actually a rat named Rowdy the Rat. And he came up with amazing results out of his research. He was able to really help these animals, and he knew this would be able to help children. And he thought, if only I could get the word out about my research, then people would know that this actually works. Then they're more likely to investigate this research, look at it, and use it for their children, because I need to get the word out to parents. Sure, I can tell doctors, but doctors don't want to tell the parents because doctors want the kids to keep coming back to them for the physical therapy so they could get paid. Who I need to get the message out to are the parents of these children. They're the ones that can implement these practices with some guidance so that they don't overextend muscles and those sorts of things. But if they'll ask their doctors about it and talk to their doctors about it, then they can work with their doctors and actually do these techniques to help their kids. So he knew he could get the word out in some way. So he started thinking about this. And he was sitting at home brainstorming on the couch one day, and he came up with this brilliant idea. Now there's this hotel in London. I don't know the name of it, so if you find out, let me know. Put it in the comments. But there's a hotel in London that was famous for doing crazy publicity stunts. And this hotel had a really good relationship with celebrities, a really good relationship with the media, and they did crazy publicity stunts all the time. And the relationship with the celebrities they had was deep. The celebrities, every time somebody's filming in London, they go stay at this hotel. Doesn't matter what A-list actor or actress it is, they stay at this hotel in London. It's really famous for that. But one of the reasons that the celebrities stay there is because of the relationship with the media that the hotel has. See, the hotel has this policy that nobody could even cross the threshold of the hotel if they're a media member. They have to stay outside. I mean, think about it. If you're a celebrity, you don't want somebody knocking on your hotel room door at 3 a.m. trying to take candid pictures of you, right? Because they hung out in the lobby and heard that you were in room 242, you know? So the relationship with the media is that the media stays outside. But because of that, they treat the media very nicely. They have covered areas to keep them out of the rain. They pipe in air conditioning in the summer or heat in the winter. They bring them snacks and drinks throughout the day, and there's a restroom with exterior access for media members. So media members love the hotel. They respect the rule, and they don't go across the threshold. They don't go inside. And then they can wait for the celebrities to come out, and they're all lined up on the sides, and then they can get a couple of autographs and pictures and stuff as they come and go. But otherwise, then they don't bother the celebrities, and the celebrities love that part. Okay. But this hotel was famous for doing crazy publicity stunts, and so the researcher thought, if I did a publicity stunt at the hotel, then this would get it out in the open, because the hotel does lots of advertising for stuff like this. It would get it out in the open. Maybe if there's any money to be raised, it could go towards the cause of promoting this. And then maybe some celebrities would get behind this too. Maybe they'd endorse this, you know, and say, we need to do this for the children, you know. And then celebrities, you've seen celebrities make advertisements before about, you know, different good things that they do, humanitarian efforts, altruistic efforts. So this is something maybe celebrities could get behind, the researcher thought. Okay, so he called up the hotel and he said, hey, I'd like to have an animal race. I'd like to have an animal race in the lobby of your hotel. And I want the press to cover this, and I want celebrities to come down and cheer, and here's the reason. I'm trying to help these children, and I'm trying to get the word out about being able to help these children. And the hotel said, you know, that's a really noble cause, but we don't let media members inside, so maybe you could hold the race outside. And the researcher thought for a minute and thought, you know what? What if, for this one day and this one day only, you allow media members to come into just the lobby of the hotel, only the lobby. And this is a huge deal, because they're never allowed inside. But in exchange for them coming inside for that one day, then they promise to cover this story. They have to cover the story to be granted access inside. And the hotel said, you know what, that could work. That could work. This is a worthy cause. Let's do it. Here's a date I have available. Okay, so the researcher then actually got racing animals from around the world, and he figured he was going to feature his star. His star, remember, is Rowdy the Rat. Now, Rowdy the Rat is his star because Rowdy drives a race car. That's right, a little race car. It's like a little remote-controlled car that they took out the remote control part for, took out the servos for that, and he drives it himself. So there's a little gas pedal, a little brake, and a steering wheel. And through this, using the steering wheel, through using the forward and back motion of the brake and the gas, then Rowdy really improved his movement of his appendages where he had been injured before. So he was the star. And so the day of the race came, and these owners of the different animals came to the hotel. The researcher took Rowdy the Rat as well, and they set up a start line. They had the start line in the beginning of the lobby, a couple of feet after you came inside, and there were a bunch of celebrities and media gathered around the start line. And then they had the race course across the lobby. It was laid out with tape on the floor, and then down the first hallway, and close to the end of the first hallway then was the big finish line, and the big finish line checkered flag, and that's where more celebrities and more media were gathered for the finish line. Okay? All right, so the race begins, and they're off. And you got all kinds of different animals in this race. Okay, you got a racing bullfrog, you got a racing goat, you got a racing cockroach, you got a racing sheep, I think they had. You got Rowdy in his race car. You had a bunch of different animals there. Okay, so now they're off. And the bullfrog takes a leap or two and stops. You know, kind of has his eye on the cockroach over there. cockroach is just scuttling along. The goat goes up, kind of gets distracted, eats some wallpaper. You know, Rowdy's foot slipped off the gas at the beginning of the race. Everybody say, oh, it was scary. That's right, it was scary. And don't worry though, don't worry. He got his foot back on the gas and he took off. He took off. Now by this time, the bullfrog was really far up and the goat was really far up, even though he was distracted. There was a ferret as well, and the ferret was doing really well. The ferret was fast. But you know how ferrets do. When he got into the hallway, he kind of took a sharp right and headbutted the wall, you know, and then crawled along the wall for a little bit. That's what ferrets do. And then Rowdy, he was hitting the gas, man. He was hitting the gas, and he was catching up with the bullfrog. They were neck and neck. Bullfrog and Rowdy the Rat, neck and neck, I should say. Front wheels and neck, front wheels and neck and neck, all the way to the end of the race. And who do you think won? Well, of course, Rowdy the Rat, right? He's the star of the story. Okay, so there's the story. There's the story of Rowdy the Rat and the race. Now that you have the story of Rowdy the Rat, let's put it down on paper and look at some organizational structure so that we can write a presentation or a paper off of this and be more confident in what we're going to say. And that's really the key here. Reducing nervousness is all about prior preparation. You've got to prepare in advance. And the more prepared you are and the more organized you are, the less nervous you're going to be. The key here is organization. It's all about organization. So let's get organized. Now that we've heard the story, we need to put this into an organizational outline format. And what we really need to think about are the main ideas in this story. We need to think about the thesis idea. What is a thesis? A thesis is a main idea, right? And a thesis sentence is a full sentence that encapsulates that idea. Well, the thesis idea for this speech then is Rowdy the Rat. So let's go ahead and make a thesis tree. Okay? This is what a thesis tree looks like. And you have your thesis idea that goes in the top, and all the main ideas of the story then go underneath that in the subpoints, okay? And the big main points of the speech, or the main points of the paper or the presentation, okay? So that's what our thesis tree looks like. And let's go ahead and put Rowdy the Rat up in the top, since that's the thesis idea. And then let's think about who the main players and the main elements, the main things in this story are. And let's put those into the main point bubbles here. So we talked about the research and the researcher. We talked about the celebrities. We talked about the hotel. We talked about the media. And we talked about the race itself. And those are the main elements of the story. So we're going to put all those in those 5 big bubbles. Okay? Then we're going to come back and we're going to think about all the details, the finer details under each one of these. So let's start with the research. And when we talked about the research, we talked a little bit about the researcher. Certainly we could go find out more. Now the key here is to think about these subpoints here, and even if we didn't cover them in the story, you've got to know that we could actually go find some more information about these items and then use it for our paper or our presentation to expand a little bit on what we do know from the story. Okay, so we could find out more about the researcher. We know that this was a combination of physical therapy and behavioral modification research. We know that he used animals in this research, and we learned some other details, like the fact that this research had a really good outcome. So we could put other details there kind of generically to cover some of those other elements. Let's talk about the celebrities. Well, what does anybody want to know when they hear about celebrities? They want to know who was there in attendance and why they were there, what were they filming, those sorts of things. Why were they in London? We also want to know if they were wearing something in particular or if they said something in particular. So let's call this one social and fashion. We want to know if any celebrities endorsed this and got behind the cause to help children. And we want to know if they cheered on a favorite animal or if they placed any bets. You know, if Tom Cruise was there, he was going to place a bet on something. You know, the man's an adrenaline junkie, right? He won't deny that. But he probably bet on something. And then for the hotel, think about what we talked about with the hotel. They had a distinct relationship with celebrities. They had a special relationship with the media. They're famous for doing crazy publicity stunts. And then some other details about the hotel, like the fact that they're in London, you know, they've been in business so many years. Things like that we could actually look up and put in there. As far as the media goes, well, what kind of outlets were there? What kind of media outlets were in attendance? So what particular stations were there, in other words, or what particular papers? And what types of media were there? Were they all newspapers? Was there a radio station? Were there television stations with television coverage? So what types of media and which specific outlets were there? And then a really important point here to think about when we're talking about media is the portrayal of this story. How did they portray this story? And everybody knows that a media's portrayal makes a huge difference in the perception of the audience. You know, some news stations are going to report on this, and they're going to talk about what a wonderful cause this is, that we're trying to help children. But then we're going to have some other less ethical news station, Fox News, report on this and just talk about how gimmicky it was and all the crazy stuff this hotel does to try to get business. They're not even going to focus on the main point of the story, which is the fact that this was done for a good cause, you know, to spread the word of the good cause. And then, you know it's true. You know it's true. All right, and then the race. You know, what did we talk about for the race? Well, the fact that there were different animals there. And then what does somebody want to know about this race? Well, what were the places? Who won first place, second place, third place? You know, who were the winners there? And then highlights. Anytime you're talking about a sporting event or anything else, you always cover the highlights. People want to know if that bullfrog actually ate the cockroach, you know, or if the ferret had a headache after headbutting the wall, or how much damage the goat did to the wallpaper. You know, think about the highlights there, and that's something that you could include as well. All right, so now that we have those laid out, all these little subpoints under our main points here, let me show you something pretty spectacular here. Okay, so now it's time for research. Okay, if we're going to write a paper or give a presentation, let's just say we're going to give a presentation that's 5 to 7 minutes long. Well, 5 to 7 minutes long usually means that you have 3 fully fleshed out main points. Okay, I just know that from doing that for years and years. You know, if you have a time frame that you have to meet, that's a good estimation for you. 5 to 7 minutes is 3 fully fleshed out main points. So let's look up each one of these main points. Let's look these up, do a little bit of preliminary research here. We don't have to go far in depth on our research yet, but this is just the preliminary round of research to see what we actually can support out of these main points, because we might not be able to support them all. So let's take a look. If we do a little bit of investigation here, we might find tons of information on the research, okay? And we might find, so we'll give that one a big red star. We know we can support that and write plenty in our paper about that. And let's say we can find plenty on the race, okay? So we'll give it a big red star as well. But let's say that we don't find anything at all on the media that were actually there, any information about them at all. So we're going to cross that one off. And then let's say that we found some information for the celebrities and the hotel. Well, if we need 3 main points, then why not combine those 2 to make one more solid main point? And that's really the brilliant part about brainstorming like that and thinking about your main points and then doing a little bit of research, because then you can combine some together to make a stronger main point. So now we have 3 main points that we're going to be able to support in our speech or in our presentation or paper. Okay? Now let's do a little bit more research. Now that we've got that done, let's investigate all these subpoints. And you'll see that I have now some Roman numerals here. Okay, so think about what we're doing here. We're not just writing a thesis tree here. We're writing a thesis tree because this is a tool. This is a way to take all the information from this thesis tree and actually put it into an organizational outline for your presentation or your paper. So research is the idea for your main point 1 in your speech or paper. You just create a full sentence off of that idea. For instance, you could say, a great amount of physical therapy and behavioral modification research was done. And that could be your main point sentence. And then you go into the details under that in the finer points under the main point. Right? So you take each one of these main ideas and turn them into a full sentence, and that gives you the main points in your speech. Main points 1, 2, and 3. Now underneath there, we have all the little subpoints. Okay, so if you do some research, you might find that you have plenty of stuff under the research main point to support it. And you actually have your subpoints laid out for you. Right there, laid out for the outline for your speech or presentation. So your subpoint A is going to be a sentence talking about the researcher. The researcher worked for years to come to these conclusions. That could be your sentence. And then under there, you give details about how he worked for years and what those conclusions were. And then subpoint B could be about the physical therapy and behavioral modification type of research that he did. C could be about the animals. And D could be your other details of the research, like how many animals were involved and the fact that they had to have an animal trainer, those sorts of things. And the results, maybe you could put the results there. But you have all your subpoints laid out. And let's look at Roman numeral 2. You don't have to use every single one of these subpoints if you don't have the research to back them up. But maybe which celebrities were there, who they were, why they were there, is easily found out. So you have a good subpoint there. Maybe you don't find a lot on their social interactions or what they were wearing, but you found out that one of the celebrities endorsed this cause and got behind this and talked about the children benefiting. And then you could combine that with some points over with the hotel. Since we combined those two as a main point, maybe you want to talk about the relationship with the celebrities or the relationship with the media or the crazy publicity stunts. So you could actually have all these little things as subpoints when you combine those together. But you don't have to use them all. And then for main point 3, under the race, you have your subpoints laid out for you. There were multiple animals that took part in the race. That's your sentence for subpoint A. Look, this is writing a speech for you. This is writing a presentation for you as you go. And then you're talking about the places and winners for subpoint B and highlights of the race for subpoint C. You have all the ideas laid out for all the sentences for all the subpoints. And you don't have to go in that order either. You could determine for the race, you could determine that animals is going to be your subpoint A, highlights is going to be subpoint B, and then the placers and the winners are going to be subpoint C. So you don't have to go in that order, but it gives you the ideas for all those sentences. And then we can easily take this and go straight from here and start writing a paper or writing our presentation. And that's actually what I'm going to cover in the next video, Thesis Trees Part 2. So make sure you check that video out. I hope you see that this is really helpful. Hope you see that this can help you write in less than 5 minutes. In less than 5 minutes, you can write a whole outline for a speech or a presentation. It's an amazing and powerful tool. So please like this video. If you got something out of this, please, please, please subscribe to the channel. And I look forward to seeing you in more Communicate with Command videos. Thank you, and I hope you have a great day.